Welcome to Voices from the Vineyard, where we share stories of faith, hope, and community from Valley Vineyard Church. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Well, welcome to our Voices from the Vineyard podcast. We're glad that you joined us today. And in this podcast, we like to have different people from our congregation and sometimes from outside our congregation to tell their stories so that we're able to hear what God has done in people's lives, what he's doing, and just where they're at on their journey. And it's just a blessing to hear from others and to see what God continues to do in and through our ministry. And so today we have with us Lauren Agapiou, who's our worship ministry coordinator, and just so glad to have her here. And her and her husband Damon and Malachi, their son, are just a great family that have been a part of our church for many years. And thanks for being with us here, Lauren. And,
Absolutely.
One of the cool things I think about you and Damon as you guys lead in this worship ministry is that you guys are worshipers at heart, and you guys aren't performers. You guys aren't doing it for anything else, but just you love the Lord and you want people to enter into his presence as well. So I just really appreciate that about you. And so, yeah, thanks for being here. And so I'm going to interview a little bit and just other people can get to know you. So, we like to start by just hearing the story, kind of our formational story about how we grew up. So what was your family and faith environment like growing up, and how did Jesus become a reality in your life? So you could let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on here. This is fantastic to be able to share my story, share how the Lord has just made a huge impact in my life, and just also being a part of our church here. So growing up, I grew up in a Christian household. Sunday was, it'd be weird to not go to church on Sunday. So we started out, my parents started out in a church in, I can't remember where it was exactly, but, we started, or when I was growing up, I was at Hope Chapel just in my younger years. And one of the things there that was huge for me, hugely formational, especially in regards to worship, was just that we had the kids in with the main service for worship. And so I had to have the demonstration of this is how we have communal worship. This is, raising your hands, lifting up your voice. So that was hugely formational for me. And just really impacted just the foundations of who I am as a person, as a worship leader, as it was grounding. And then we came here to the Vineyard. I think it was in 94, I believe. Actually, just before that, when I was 6 years old, I had accepted Jesus into my heart. It was I remember that very vividly of hey, I'm making this decision. This is what I want. It wasn't no pressure, none of that. It was just hey, I want Jesus. I accept you into my heart. And then we came here when I was 7, and the thing with Vineyard, just in general, is there's a huge emphasis on worship and authentic worship, intimate worship. And so we would have, the kids, we would have our worship times here, but it wasn't hokey little Jesus songs. It's we were singing the songs that were being sung in the main service, and just truly connecting and engaging. And so I'm just grateful for the fact that my parents really prioritized, church life, having relationship with the Lord, and that, they put us in places like here where it's okay, yeah, it has an impact. It was formational for me growing up. And, that was just the center of our home was, Jesus, which, every household has, no parent is perfect, it's not but one thing that was perfect was being, a part of having Jesus being a priority in our lives.
Yeah, it's not perfection, but just knowing that his presence, it's in the midst of the family dynamics, and even when we mess up, he's present. When things are going well, he's present, and so that's very formational. And so that's cool. I knew you came to this church when you were very young. So what role did worship or music play in your life before you even considered ministry?
Yeah. I ever since I could sit up at the piano, I was sitting up at the piano,
Oh, okay.
singing all the time, much to my brother's demise, as any little sister does, you know your big brother, but he loved that. But yeah, no, I loved music in general growing up. My mom put us in this conservatory at a college, which was really cool. So we got to be exposed to like theory, different instruments, seeing what we liked, seeing, if we liked something, if we didn't like something. So it was just a really neat opportunity that she was always looking for opportunities for us, like whether it was in music or other areas. But that right there was, I remember that vividly. I also remember failing theory 3 times, but, but, so that, and then being a part of church life, the music, worship itself is like at the forefront. And so, I just love singing to Jesus. It wasn't, I think, until like it was my teen years or my young adult years where I was like, hey, you know what? I think I want to do this. Like, I think this is something that I want to have be a part of my life, a part of who I am. And so, when I was 14, I started in the worship band at the youth, and then that integrated into main service worship, and then here I am now.
Yeah, that reminds me when my first attempt at music, my parents took us to, I don't know, it was like a trade college or something, and they had a music program, and they had pianos there, and I was excited. And the pianos, for some reason, they didn't produce any sound. It was just for placement, for hand placement. And I was like, I did it for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, and I was like, if I can't hear it, I'm done. So whatever, way they did of teaching music wasn't for me. So I never went back until much later when I was in my teens. That's when I started picking up the guitar. But anyway, can you share that story? I mean, you've shared this story at staff meeting before about like how significant children's ministry was in your life when it came to worship, and just kind of how you experienced God and worship through that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was thinking about that. And just in leading up to today, I was thinking about that and how there was one Sunday here specifically. We were, they brought the kids into room 12, and we had our worship time together there. And there's a gal there. She was leading. I think her name was Diane. She was leading us in worship, and I was sitting in the back of the room, just sitting there, eyes closed, hands open, and just singing and just really engaging and like worshiping the Lord. And she noticed that, she saw that. And I remember her like after service, my mom came to pick me up, and she came to my mom and she's like, hey, there's something here. Like, pay attention to this. There's something here. She is a true, authentic, like worshiper. And it just being able to have that encounter. And like that also having the space, like providing the space for kids to be able to do that. It's not like, oh, you're a kid and you need to go over here. Like, it's like, no, like we're going to create space for you to be able to encounter the Lord and worship God, and not, it makes me think about the disciples of like, oh, no, you can't come near Jesus. And Jesus was like, whoa, hey, let them come to me. So that just, that was huge, and having that space provided, and also too to have a leader call out saying like, hey, there's something here, and then also taking it to the next step of like, hey, mom, let's pay attention to this. Like, there's like, this is important. Yeah, if it's not the story you're thinking,
that is exactly the story, and I love how you get emotional thinking about it, because it was a God moment, right? Where you're experiencing His presence, but then somebody else is calling it out, and maybe not just calling it out, just like, I'm aware that this is happening, but there's some type of spiritual proclamation in that of like, this is, what we think the Lord is doing and moving in, and ultimately it was what the Lord was doing, and not just at that moment, but the course of your life as well. So it's a significant marker in your life. And so how would you personally define worship? We gather, right, together every Sunday. And worship could be, worship is a lifestyle, right, where we could, everything we do is unto God.
Right.
But when we gather together, at the Vineyard, we have a significant time of what we call worship, and we
Right.
worship through music, right? But how would you, and you're leading us in that time? How would you define worship?
Yeah. The way I would define worship is just an outpouring of our heart, of our love to him. He poured out all for us. Now in turn, we want to come and pour out our love to him. And I was thinking about how there's so many different like idols or things or people that people idolize, that you can worship in a sense, when you're idolizing something or someone, you're worshiping them, whether it's Kobe Bryant or, let's put together a golden calf, but like, I was thinking about that, or like when you say like, oh my gosh, look at how amazing this person or that thing is, you get nothing in return. And it's not that we're looking to get something in return, but with that, when we worship God, he also he draws near to us. And we encounter him and we get to experience his love. So it's this exchange. Like if we were to put it into one word, it's like communion. We're communing and it's an exchange. And that's just so amazing to me and so beautiful. Like what God does that, like our God does. Like we get to have a beautiful exchange. There's an outpouring of our love for one another. And that's how I define worship. It's just like he's poured out his love for us. Let's pour out our love to him. And let's commune, let's be in this sacred space together.
Yeah. There's some Bible verses that talk about kind of ascending, in worship, but then also God descending in worship. And I don't know how that works, but ultimately we're together, right? And we're reacting to his love. We're reacting to his heart. We love because he first loved us, right? And so our worship is a response, right, to his love,
right?
And so, yeah, it's highly important. That's part of our values as a Vineyard Church. We want to be committed and growing in our communion with God, and so that is just really important for us. And so, then, worship is something we could do everywhere, right? We can do it when we're walking in nature and say, God, you're amazing. Look at your creativity. We can do it as we're working, as we're doing our vocation. We're serving him unto him, right?
Right.
And so the way we treat others is worship. And so we're doing worship everywhere, right? We could spend time with God every morning and sing and read his word and pray, and all that's worship. But why do you think corporate worship is so important for the church? If we could all just do it alone with God, why is it important for us to gather as a church to worship together?
Yeah. No, that there's something beautiful that happens in the unity within worship when we come together. We can disagree on this, that, or the other, but what we do agree on is that our God is, he's incredible and we love him. And so coming together in unity, making that declaration together as a congregation, it's just, there's a beauty, but also a power in that. It was like, hey, like we are seating him on the throne above all else together. We are coming in unity in this, but also edifies one another. It builds each other up. It can increase our faith. I could come in deep sorrow and grief, but then this other person can bring hope, and how we can come together congregationally as a community. We can, there's something that happens in the midst of that. And if we miss out on that, we're missing, we were supposed to do church together. We're missing out on a big chunk of that. And it's important, to build each other up, to edify one another. Obviously, we're coming to church for God. Obviously, we're coming to worship God for him. But to do that together in unison, there's a beauty in that. And it's important. It's important to make, like, it's like also like eating, like you can eat however many meals alone, but it's important to come together to the table with everyone. Like, let's sit and let's be together and have this shared thing, if that makes sense.
There was this, I can get into rabbit trails and as I process things. And there was this article about how singing together aligns us, and our heartbeats start beating at the same time.
Right.
Like so if you think about how much division we're experiencing through so many things like you mentioned, and during that time we're doing something countercultural where in the midst of our differences we're singing together, and the Bible talks about it being as one voice, right? And so there's something powerful that's happening as we are doing that. And there's a vertical thing that's happening between like me and God,
Right.
but there's also a horizontal thing that's happening between us, right? And even if somebody is here and doesn't feel like worshiping because they had a hard day or a hard week or going through difficulties, but through those songs, like God is moving and people can be touched
Absolutely.
through that time and stuff. And so, so in that vein, what do you most hope for people to experience when they come into our worship services?
Yeah. My biggest desire, my hope, is that people would encounter the living God. That they that would be just a beautiful way to just maybe like pause in the week or whatever it is, but that they would encounter the living God, because he is living, he is moving, he is alive, and there's so much that can happen, so much freedom in his presence. And that's really what I like. Yes, I want people to pour out their hearts, but I want them to experience the living God and all who he is, and to not miss out on that. Like there's, like I want to see a hunger in the room, and for people to be like, hey, yeah, he is alive, and I'm gonna declare that, and also I want to experience that. It's a lifeline, if you will, and to be able to plug into that stream of life and not miss out.
How would you share that, with somebody that maybe doesn't have that framework, right? Where they maybe read the Bible and they see it as a good book of stories or a good book of morals, or like how would you invite somebody into knowing and recognizing and experiencing that the God is living, and not just in those times. It's not a history book that we're reading, but that he is here and now. Like what are some ways you might encourage somebody into that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and a challenging one, because I would hope that they would be open, but I think it just maybe offering that, maybe not necessarily challenging, but it's just saying, hey, why don't you try it out? Why don't you, come and stand up, posture yourself. You mean you can come and sit in a chair and but not be engaged. But I want to why don't you dip your toes in the water, stand up, or maybe lift your hands a little bit, sing out, or even if you're not comfortable with singing out, meditate on the words that are being sung, and focusing more on that versus, oh well, this isn't for me. It's like maybe try, just try, you never know. It doesn't hurt to try, if that makes sense. But also from what I've experienced, I've experienced God in these moments, and not everything is like a huge, boom, all this is happening. But even if you just can feel his presence, there are tangible signs. You can feel warmth or tingling in your hands, but just opening up your heart a little bit, just trying. Just want to encourage you to try, and see. You never know. You never know.
Yeah. I think that's one of the prayers God answers is show me you're there, right? He will find a way to demonstrate that he is alive and with us and stuff. And so, would you share a story about how you've seen God move powerfully in a worship service?
Yeah. Well, this is for me is kind of a personal story, something that's happened for me during worship. I had a rare Sunday where I had nothing. I was not assigned to do anything. I'm like, oh yay, I get to go worship. Like I don't have to play an instrument. I don't do this, do that. And so I went into the youth because I was serving in the youth at that time. And they were leading worship, and we were just in a beautiful space. And they went into the next song, which was "When You Walk Into the Room." And just to backtrack a little bit, I was experiencing a lot of issues with my sciatic nerve. I had like extreme pain, like couldn't like don't even touch me because it like that's how bad it hurt. I would receive prayer, and I'd have some improvement. It was just it was not fun. So I just kind of moved on from that after having received prayer a few times. I'm like, okay, like and just move on. not that God wouldn't heal me, but it was just like I was like, okay, like I'm not focusing on this. So I went into worship, and it was like my sole goal, my sole desire was just to be with Jesus. I was so excited to be able to just sit at the feet of Jesus. And so I went into worship and I'm worshiping him and just singing out. And then it came to the chorus of like, we love you. We'll never stop. All this is for you, Jesus. We love you. Can't get enough. Like just that concept. And as we're singing that, I could just feel this touch on my sciatic nerve. So it's a triangular shape is a sciatic nerve. So I just felt 3 little touches on my nerve. And then there's just the relief of pain and the release of just like all the tension, all like the nerve issues, everything. 90% of the way healed in worship. And that was just so incredible to me. It was just like, I came to him. I didn't come asking for anything. I just wanted to be with him. And in that space of, he brought that healing. And he had heard my cry before. He knew I wanted relief. He knew I needed healing. But it was in that space of just like wanting to be with him that he brought that. And it was just to experience healing like that in his presence. Because like in his presence, there is freedom, there is healing, there is that. And you can experience that. And he can miraculously do things because that's who he is and how he moves. But the beauty of I was seeking his face and not his hands, seeking who he is and not what he can do for me. And just like having that personal experience. I mean, I've seen other stuff happen where, like different signs and wonders throughout a worship service, but like that, just like that miraculous moment for my own healing, but also just to be with him. It was really something beautiful and amazing and something I will continue. I will never stop talking about that. Never stop celebrating that. I'm just like, wow, like, he's moving, he is healing, and he's present.
That's amazing. It's great when the Lord moves in that way, and it becomes just part of our story of knowing that he's a good God, right? That all good gifts comes from the God, the Father of lights, right? And we're able to, of course, we're not worshiping to get something,
right?
But it is his heart to bless, and it's his heart to, as we are in communion with him, as we are drawing near to him, it's his heart to just say, "Here, I love you," or I'm with you in this, and we're able to experience his presence. We're able to experience peace in the midst of difficulty, or we're able to experience his power and see things healed and transformed and shift in our midst. So it's awesome to experience that. And so what would you say are our Vineyard distinctives when it comes to worship? We're part of a movement called the Vineyard. We're not just a church called the Valley Vineyard. We're part of a movement of many churches here in the States and then throughout the world. And the Lord actually used the Vineyard movement to help in this area of worship, where back in the day, a lot of churches sang about Jesus, right, or about God,
right,
and that has its place, right?
Absolutely.
But the Vineyard, the Lord used the Vineyard to say, well, why don't we sing not just about him, but sing to him? And that was something that changed just church and the church and the way people worship was kind of brought into this place of connecting with God in a real and tangible way through music and song.
Yeah.
And so we're part of that movement. And so we have some distinctives, right?
Absolutely.
That make kind of that the Lord has bestowed on us as a church movement to continue and be faithful in that. And so what would you, as you've grown up in the Vineyard, what would you say are some of those distinctives?
Yeah, that would be like intimacy, because we're not just singing about God, we're singing to him. He's like, we're singing like, Jesus, I love you. I pour my love on you. Or like, you are the air I breathe and I'm desperate for you. Like that's intimate. Just like, this is how close I need and want to be with you and how much I love you. So intimacy is a huge distinctive. And then, and exactly what you said, singing to God versus about God. And yeah, we changed the makeup of worship in the church, in congregational worship. And it's amazing. Like, it's amazing how it shifted things. And I love that. I love that, kind of spearheaded that. And I think it's incredible. I think it's something to celebrate, because it broke down a barrier, I feel like, of like, kind of like, there's God and here's us. It's like, no, like, we are here communing with God. We're able to connect with him on a deeper level that maybe we didn't quite realize. I mean, like, I feel like King David, he really tapped into that. He showed that, like, that desperation and that desire to worship, but also be real with God. Like, hey, like, I'm a mess, or man, like, Lord, forgive me, like, search my heart and know me. And allowing that, and that goes back to the intimacy, allowing that space. And yeah, Vineyard is a little more on the contemplative side. We have some fun songs too, but like, it's definitely like, hey, I want to connect with you, God. I want to be intimate with you.
So I heard intimacy, but I also heard you say authenticity. So can you talk a little bit about authenticity in worship?
Yeah. I think it's just being real about like where we're at. We could say like, the sun is shining and there's butterflies and rainbows, but there's just the authenticity of just like, Lord, I'm desperate for you. Being real about where we are. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's just like, hey, Lord, like I'm wrestling with this, or I'm desperate for you, and just being okay with that, and like just being okay with being in front of the Lord in that space. And we don't have to hide anything.
Yeah. I would say another thing for the Vineyard is that we don't look at the sermon as the main event, right? Where a lot of churches, that's like, okay, we're here for the word, and we are. We're not saying, we're not discounting that, but for us, it's bringing worship into an even place with that, where it's not just the time we spend so that more people can come and be present for the sermon. It's actually as important to us, because that's where we're offering our lives and hearts before God. And so it's not just this filler of time,
right?
Or it's not just something like, Christian karaoke, where it was like, okay, it's a time where we are coming together as a family, as a community, to worship him together. And it's powerful,
right?
And it's just as important as hearing the word,
right?
And then for us as a church, it would be also what happens after the word is giving space again for that response to the word, but then also for God to move in whatever way he wants to move, through communion, through prayer and ministry time, or through our sacred space board now that we have in the back, a little bit more contemplative as well. So, yeah. So I think we might take it for granted because that's kind of what we grew up with. Like, they're both important.
Yeah. I agree.
Any other distinctive that you might think of? I remember back in the day, the vineyards talk about like keeping things simple so that
That, yes, thank you.
accessibility or something like that.
Yes, that was something I was thinking on in regards to this topic, was the simplicity of it. Not overcomplicating it. The simplicity, like even if you look at some of the song lyrics, it's just, this is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. It's that simple. Like, and I'm desperate for you. Like, that's it. The simplicity. And that's, I forgot that was something I was thinking on in regards to this. But it's the simplicity. There's intimacy and simplicity. It's like the same word that you said, accessible. Like, it just makes it so that it's not like these bulky words, and like, not to say that hymns are a bad thing, or, certain whatnot. And there's a beauty in songwriting, like having like a certain craft to that, but simplifying it, making it not so hard, that like, God's right here, he's tangible and you can connect with him. It's not as hard as it might seem like it could be. It's like, he's here, he's present, and you can connect. So,
yeah. So what would you say God's teaching you lately as a leader? What are some things that you're hearing from him, or you think he's showing you?
Yeah. So I'm coming out of like a season where I've had to take care of a lot of other people and a lot of other things, and a lot of my rhythms that I was really good at. I haven't prioritized those quite as much. Where it's difficult. I have a 4-year-old, and that consumes a lot of time, obviously. But the Lord's just reminding me, like, and it's not that I don't know the importance, but just the importance of like stewarding my own relationship with him, my own rhythms, my own habits, so that I can then better lead. So that's just something where he's really speaking to me of just like, hey, invest in your craft, invest in your own relationship with me. Like, let's prioritize these again. And in that, you'll see overflow into your leadership, into the ministry, whether it's with the team or congregational leadership, like leading the congregation into worship. And I was just like, yeah, no, you're right, Lord. Like, and so just listening to his guide in that, I'm just like, okay. So yeah, he's just really, even though I already knew it, just teaching me just the importance of that. Like, hey, this is important for you to be pouring into, investing in yourself, but also like in prioritizing certain disciplines and practices with me. It's just like, okay, yeah, no, you're right, Lord. Like, and so, humbling myself, like, I'm like, okay, here we are, Jesus, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But I will say, Lauren, one of the things I appreciate about you is just the focus and the thought you put into the songs that we're gonna do together on Sunday. And there's been many times where we won't coordinate about like how I'm gonna end a service or sermon, or maybe from the other people that preach as well, and you just know the title of the sermon, but how many times the Lord just uses the songs you've sought him over that week to see what we're gonna do together, and it's amazing how many times it just lines up with the sermon, and then the kind of how we were gonna respond, that response song as well. There's been many times that I get chills, like when we're singing at that moment. It's like, this was the perfect song for this moment, and that happens a lot. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I put a lot of thought and prayer into it. I will look at what's the scripture that we're doing, like that we're focusing on this week, and I sit with that. Like, I sit there and I meditate on the word, and I just ask the Lord, like, what is it, what you're highlighting? Yeah, I'll look at your like sermon titles, and that helps inform some of the decisions. But I'm really asking the Lord, like, what is your heart? Where is it you're moving, and how can I best steward this to help lead those that will be there into your throne room, to be able to worship you, but then also be prepared for your word. And it's important to me. It's important that we are I guess you could say on the same page, but like, like if where the Lord is leading us as a church, that I'm paying attention to that. And, it's, I want to seek his heart, and I want to know where he's moving and what he's doing. And then also to be in line in unity with ourselves as leadership as well. And like, listening to the Lord, but then, okay, this is what we've planned to do. How can we best steward that? And that's important to me. Just like, hey, okay, like we can focus on that. And even in the closing, that's important. It's like, okay, it's like we're buttoning things up here. Like, how are we responding? And does this song make sense? I mean, we're not going to sing. Like, yeah, there's certain songs that wouldn't make sense. But like, hey, like, okay, if we're responding in this, if it's a message on repentance, I want to make sure that like we're in that space. Or if it's a message of, like whatever it could be, like making sure we're landing in the right spot so that, the Lord can, making space for the Lord to do what he wants to do in and through us.
Yeah. And so going off of that, where do you see God moving in our church right now?
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed since the start of the year is just a growth in hunger to worship him, to engage him. And that brings me joy. That's something I've been praying for. Just a stirring of hunger, just an increased appetite for the Lord. And so I've been seeing that, just the growth in that. And also I see him moving in compassion as well. There's a lot of different stuff happening in our world, different stuff happening even within our congregation with certain individuals and families, and just this increase of compassion for those around us. So yeah, that's. There are other initiatives as well. Like, we launched our young adults ministry. There's a lot happening with our youth, but I'm really seeing just a growth in hunger, and just that increase there, and compassion. Just the Lord, like people leaning into the Lord's heart for that, and in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also with the Vineyard movement, I would say worship and compassion are the legs that support ministry. Like there's many years ago, somebody drew like a vineyard person with different parts of what our values are, and worship and compassion were the legs and stuff. And I think that's a great reminder because as we are flowing in compassion and being outward focused to the needs of those not just in our church but outside our church, with food pantry and evangelism and all these justice issues and stuff, like we cannot separate that from worship. We cannot separate that from abiding in God, because then it becomes about like, I'm always upset about things need to be better, or why aren't people helping more, and all that. We become self-righteous in that, or we can have bad motives in that. But at the same time, our communion with God, our abiding in God, needs to take us out. And it's not just about, I want to feel his presence only. And, there is, and that's why our values are that: communion, community, and commission. It's gonna transform us so that then we have better community, we have better relationships, we are growing emotionally to be able to connect with others. But then we're also part of God's mission of reconciliation and seeing things made new and being a part of that. I remember growing up in a church where worship was a huge emphasis, but like people didn't, like when there was conflict and people didn't know how to figure how to do the right thing in those moments, and people were like really into worship, but it's like, there was a disconnect there, and so I think they're all important, but our foundations are worship and compassion, like inward and outward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then how can our church be praying for you and the worship team?
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff there. I mean, we are we're at the forefront. If you look at if the scripture, like the worship went first in the battle, and so we're the most vulnerable. So just praying for protection for myself, my family, my team. That is huge.
You
Just
guys are here the longest too on a Sunday.
yeah, and then there's that as well. Yeah, yeah, strength and stamina would be. I mean, one thing I would love to see as well is growth in our team. I'd love to see individual growth, like seeing people developed, not just with their skill, with their craft and ability, but also in their walks with the Lord. So just praying for that stewardship, that the Lord would continue to grow each of us in different capacities, but also growth in numbers. I would love to have more musicians. I love having you on our team and that you play bass almost every single week, but I'd love to have a bassist. Pray for a bassist. But yeah, just growth in that, like I love to lead worship from the acoustic, but right now we don't have a solid keyboard player, but I'd love to have that. So just the provisions in those senses, but not just musicians, but people who love Jesus and want to worship him. I think that's a big thing for me. It's like you can have all the skill in the world or all the desire and passion, but like having the skill and ability is important, but also like where are you at with Jesus and what's your, my goal for me and as a team is to point people to Jesus. And so I want that for our team. So that's my prayer, is that we would grow. And even the tech team too, I'd love to double both sides of the team. That would be incredible. So that's a prayer, just that the Lord would provide, and the right people. I want to see us thriving as a ministry. And right now I don't want to necessarily say we're in a maintenance mode, but it feels like we've been in maintenance mode for a while. Just like I don't want to stretch my team thin and wear them out. I want to make sure that they can also come and attend church. I've got a lot of people serving almost every week, or some, not every week for everyone, but certain individuals are, almost every week. And so yeah, I just growth in the team, but also just strength and that we wouldn't grow weary. And protection over everyone, as I mentioned before. We are the first. Aside from the food pantry, we are the first ones here, and then at the end, we got all the cleanup and whatnot. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort, and so that would be amazing just to have those prayers for that coverage and whatnot.
Yeah, we need bass players. I'm playing bass a lot. So if you play bass, contact Lauren. If you plays well, let me just say that. But no, I've told you, Lauren, that I'm there to support you, support your leadership. And now I've told you this before, but I'll say it publicly for the internet to hear, that I just appreciate how your leadership.
Thank you.
How you lead I was a worship pastor for many years and got burnt out doing it. And so I know that it's difficult to do this every week, right? And so I just appreciate just experiencing you during our rehearsals, and your grace for everyone, your leadership, and where you want to take the songs, but also you're multitasking there because you bring your amazing 4-year-old with you, and he's there. And sometimes I'm just like, how does she do that? She's like being a mom and leading the whole rehearsal at the same time. And I'm like, whoa, like I look at myself, I'm like, I don't know if I'd be patient like she's being patient right now. And so props to you for being able to multitask in that time.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, I just really appreciate you and your husband, Damon, who's not paid staff, but he does so much. He puts so much, not just in worship, but just in wanting our space to look beautiful, and a lot of ideas for that and stuff. And so just appreciate you all. And so Thank you. But if we could end by, why don't you pray for our church
Okay.
in regard to communion with God and worship, and just just whatever the Lord puts in your heart
All right.
for our church in this next season of
Happy
growth
to.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, Lord, I just first want to just come in gratitude just for just how you are constant. You are steady, that you are steadfast. And even if things are changing or moving in the world, or, we have whatever volunteer or staffing, whatever that looks like, whatever moving parts are, you are constant, you are consistent. So I just thank you, God, that you are a firm foundation. I ask Jesus that that you would continue to grow a hunger and a fervor for you within our congregation, that people would be excited to encounter you, to worship you, and to not just experience you, but just to be with you. And I ask God that that you would encounter our people, that you will pour out your life and your life to the fullest, as you said that you've come to do. And I ask Jesus that you would bring in the right people, and that you would use us, that you would use my team in a beautiful way that would be life-giving on both ends, that as they serve, that they would just receive life, but those who are also engaging in worship, that they would just experience the beauty of who you are in all of your glory. And thank you for Pastor Jimmy, and I thank you for his support and just understanding of. I appreciate, Lord, that he understands what it takes to run a worship ministry. And so, Lord, I just thank you for him, and I just pray for your blessing upon him, upon his household, his family, and all the work that you have put before him. Bless our church, oh God, and may you be glorified in all that we do, in all that we sing, in all that we praise you. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Lauren, for joining us today, and thank you for your faithfulness in leading us in worship, and everybody, thank you for joining us today as well, and just pray that you would have a blessed day, that you would just have a hunger for not just food, but hunger for God this
Yes.
day, that he is there with you. You're not alone, and he enjoys communion with you as well. So have a blessed week.